Right, good evening, guys. Thank you for taking the time to listen to me. I just want to say thank you to Matt and the Quorum team for inviting me to speak today. It's a real pleasure to be speaking in front of you all, and I hope it's of some use and interest to you all. Matt's asked me to tell everybody how wonderful Quorum is, so I've done that now. But it is, it is a really good. He's used all his contacts, and he's got a group of really good guys and girls together. So I'm really looking forward to learning from people who've got a lot more experience and ability than me, which is great. Right, so I'm going to talk tonight about my entrepreneurial journey. It's been a real roller coaster over the last 4 or 5 years, but it's been a lot of fun, a lot of stress, and I'm sure a lot of you can empathise with the illustration above, where I thought that was going to happen, and that's kind of happened. I'm not quite sure where I am now, but anyway. So I'm going to talk to you a little bit about my background, who I am, talk to you about my journey as a property developer, show you a few of our developments that I'm quite proud of, and then I'm going to spend a bit of time talking about what I think I know now that I wish I knew back then, because I've been on a real journey. We grew really, really quickly, too quickly. But what it meant was that I had lots of successes, but I also had lots of things that didn't go to plan. I'll then talk about Uplift's future, and the structure that we have now that we've kind of evolved over the last 4 years. So my background is I'm a qualified lawyer. I wasn't a very good one. I was a very frustrated entrepreneur, always looking to get out and try and find an opportunity to start a business. I was always doing courses. I was really interested in personal development. I did a number of courses with the Chartered Institute for Securities and Investment, which really broadened my horizon and broadened my skill set. But I became a developer really by accident. I did a few developments on the side while I was a lawyer. I effectively bought small flats, so 1-bedroom flats, put the kitchen in the living room and turned the kitchen into a second bedroom and sold them on. Really simple but really effective, and made a little bit of money out of it. I met a builder through this, started a small building company, and was doing that on the side whilst I was still a solicitor. And then I met my investor, and it kind of snowballed. So he originally gave us just over £1 million. We purchased a site in Ealing, in W5. We bought the site unconditionally. We went in for planning on the back of a pre-app. We put a double-storey side extension, a single rear extension, and a dormer extension. We turned it into 6 flats. We did really, really well out of it. The market helped. And from that, really, Uplift was formed. Our investor was really happy. And our investor, being the guy he is, he wanted us to go really big. So he basically said, well, let's try and turn it into a £1 billion company. Anyway, that's what we tried to do. So he gave us a war chest, and within the next 2 years, we purchased approximately £60 million worth of property, with a GDV in excess of 125 million. Guess what happens next? We've actually finished most of that successfully. We flipped on a few sites that we didn't have capacity to build out. And we've currently got a pipeline of about 60 units with a GDV of 30 million, so we've slowed down a little bit. So what did Uplift look like? I'm just going to talk you through it. I'll go use all these. So the early developments were predominantly conversion projects, so we took big period buildings. They might have been offices, hotels, nursing homes, or just large single dwellings. We often buy them unconditionally, following pre-application advice, and we would effectively turn them into apartments. The structure of Uplift was that we tried to do everything ourselves. So we bought the land ourselves, we got the planning ourselves, we did the design ourselves, and we built it out ourselves. So we used very few external consultants. They were all in-house employed people. We We thought also that we could disrupt the market. So we didn't really have much background in properties, as I've just explained. And we felt that we could apply intellectual naivety to what we did and actually come up with fresh ideas and ways to do things differently, rather than having preconceived notions of how a developer should operate. To an extent that worked, but equally I learned quite quickly there's no substitute for experience. We wanted to place ourselves as a challenger brand. So we felt that we could create an aspirational development, not just sell a flat. So we wanted to create flats that were light, airy, fun to be in, practical, and flats that people would be proud to live in. And we created a target market. We called them Jack and Chloe. So Jack and Chloe were creative types. They were into digital industry. They like to go to farmers markets, to open air cinemas. They like craft lagers and beers. So we packaged that lifestyle up for people. So effectively what we did is when they moved in, we gave them a free iPad which controlled the flats. We gave them a free handmade bike. We gave them lots of small little gifts, like we gave them notanoverbill.com. So effectively we sent them a present every month rather than another bill. We gave them a subscription to beer bods. So effectively they get a different ale every week that they could try. So we tried to make it a really aspirational place to live, and we felt that we might be able to get a price premium for that, and I think we did. So I've already touched on our growth plans. We were really aggressive. We really thought that we could grow very quickly. The way we felt we would do that is again unconventional. Whereas most developers, as they get bigger, they do bigger developments. We felt that we could just do lots of smaller developments and effectively treat it almost like a retail business. So you choose a geographical area. We started in Ealing, and we might do, say, 10 to 12 developments at a time that might be, say, 10 units each. And then we would have a internal team that would effectively run and deliver 100, 120 units in that area. And then once we were doing that, we wanted to pick that up, move that to a different area, and do the same again, and then the same again, so we could get to sort of 1,000 units a year. In theory, maybe a good idea, but in practice, doing lots of small developments was really time intensive, and we hit capacity issues quite quickly. So this really is actually the hardest part of the journey with Uplift was actually scaling. Being a developer, I found, is much easier than scaling a business. Scaling a business comes lots and lots of different other problems. I think at the height of Uplift, we had 140 employees. Part of that was obviously labour, CIS, direct contractors. But it became really difficult because we had to set up new systems, new processes. And as soon as we got them right, we grew again. And those systems and processes became outdated and they didn't work anymore. And it became really frustrating. And you ended up just chasing your own tail. But we did get a lot right. We did some really good projects and really good developments. So I'm just going to show you a few ones that I'm really proud of. So this is Kensal Rise Library. It was actually opened by Mark Twain, Matt, in 1900. And we took the site on. It was quite controversial in the local community because it used to be a library and it closed down. So we donated the ground floor back as a library to the local community. We created 4 flats above and a 2-bedroom house on the side. And we've got some images here. So, the great thing about doing conversion projects is that you can make them really quirky, you can add lots of character. So you can build on what's already there, you can expose beams, you can put really interesting windows in eaves and make nice features of them. Of course, the hard thing about conversions are you never really know how much they're going to cost. And also, you're stuck with the template that's already there. So effectively, there might be some things that you can't do, like put en suites in, or second bedrooms are too small. We also were really keen to make the communal areas better. So I was always amazed how even really nice developments never had good communal areas. They would have, if you like, blue carpets and white walls and be really uninspiring. So we felt that actually, why not make more effort with the communal areas? And in that way, we would effectively get that wow factor before they've even moved in, before they've even seen the flats. This is another development. This is in Ealing in W13 on Ellers Road. We called it the Red House. It was a William Morris building, so an arts and crafts building, which we really respected, and we tried to put back to its sort of original look. So we put crystal effect windows in, and we restored the turret. We really did well on this site because it's a really good example of what we're good at. We brought the site again on an unconditional basis. It was a nursing home. We got a change of use. We maximised the site. We managed to get 7 flats out of it, which was much more than anyone else thought we'd get, without losing the integrity of the building. Anyway, back to reality. So I saw this on LinkedIn recently, and it just reminded me of my journey. It's maybe not a day, but maybe a year. Lots of highs and lows. So I've learnt a lot over the last 4 years, and I thought I'd share some of those lessons that I've learnt with you, which hopefully might be of some help. Some of them are really basic and obvious, I know, but I needed to learn them. The first one is get your appraisal right. Now, again, really obvious, but if it doesn't work on paper, it's not going to work in real life. Be pessimistic, really difficult for entrepreneurs. I know I'm an absolute optimist. That's the only way I got to where I got to. But you need to be realistic. You need to apply sensitivity to your appraisal. You need to think about what happens if the GDV drops 5%, 2.5%, or whatever. Experts should be on tap, but never on top. It's a Churchill quote. And I think that's really true. Coming from a legal background, I probably place too much reliance on lawyers and consultants, but actually the buck stops with you. You need to take control, take ownership of what you're doing, and make sure that everything works properly. The build cost is key. For me, that was always the most difficult thing to get right on the appraisal. In the early days, we started talking to quantity surveyors and various other people, but we found actually that really wasn't very helpful. So my best advice is to go straight to a contractor. Find a contractor that you get on with, find one that you feel will be reasonable and fair, and get them engaged much earlier on in the process. This way they can help you get a much more accurate build cost, and you might be able to make them stick to it as well. And equally, you then don't have to spend time going out to tender and looking for new contractors. The programme, I would say be realistic. I always got this wrong as well. The build programme, again, you really want to get a contractor to give you that and lock him in so you can get compensation if they go over. But I think the harder bit was the sales period. So for the kinds of developments that I did, most of my profit was in the last 1 or 2 units. And there's always 1 or 2 units that take ages to sell. So if you're a developer like I am that have investors, that have lenders, time's really important. And you have to factor that in. You have to be really realistic about how long your sales period is going to be, especially in the market we're in now. In the early days, we sold a lot off plan. We had developments that were close by, which meant that we could use those as showrooms to sell the next tranche. GDV. Again, something that I suffer from, probably still do, is confirmation bias. So it's really easy for agents to give you prices, for you to look at comparables, and it backs up what you want it to back up, right? Because you want to do the deal. But I think you have to be really careful. You need to really look at what comps that are being provided, what comps that you're finding. You need to have a look at what differences there are in the scheme. It might be a Berkeley home scheme. You're not going to get the same price they do. They might have got £1,000 a square foot, but it might have taken them 2 years. I don't want to wait that long. So, you have to be really realistic on GDVs and be prudent. And no hope value. I mean, there are probably people who purchased sites a year and a half ago that might have applied some hope value, and I suspect they're in a lot of trouble right now. Lesson 2, walk before you can run. So another Churchill quote, all wisdom is not new wisdom. So surround yourself with experience. The one thing we've got now is a really experienced management team. I've got people from Wilmot Dixon, I've got people from Taylor Wimpey, I've got people surrounding me that know much more than I do. Scale with caution. So as I said earlier, your systems, your processes, they need time to evolve. And if you grow too quickly, they won't be able to keep up, inefficiencies will creep in, and actually you'll end up making less profit and for much more work. And keep it simple. So we try to do everything. We try to be the land agent, the developer, the contractor. It doesn't mean you can't be all those things, but I think it takes time to build that up. So, if you're a land agent, and the amount of times we've bought consented sites from people, and we've had to go in and replan the scheme, because they don't always know what's best for a development. They don't know the technical aspects, and they don't always know what's going to get maximum GDV. They just want their planning permission so they can flip it on. A contractor, equally, they can make their money by building things out cheaper, making the margins wider. I just think keep it simple. Which brings on to lesson number 3, which is to manage risk and get cost certainty. So outsource rather than employ people. It's much less hassle. You get cost certainty, you get a fixed price, and you've got someone to blame if it goes wrong. Contractor versus self-build. Again, even if you are a contractor or you have that capabilities, try and keep the two separate. D&B, design and build, rather than in-house design. Again, it's much better for the contractor to coordinate everything. You can still have control as the client in terms of your brand, what you want the product to look like, but you can be at a higher level, which gives you more capacity to do more deals and add value to what you're good at. Deal structure. I've been burnt a few times here. Where Uplift made a really good profit, and the deal structure was such that we didn't capture enough of it, and the investor got too much. Don't let that happen. Again, cash flow. We had 140 employees or quasi-employees at the time. We might have been doing 10, 12 projects. We might have been spending 100 to 150 grand a month. When you're financing the projects with bank debt, that's a lot of money to claim back in arrears. And if you struggle with cash flow, you end up making the wrong decisions. Or you make the right decisions, but for the wrong reasons. It's really important. Linked to that, obviously, is contingency. Make sure you put one in. Put a really healthy contingency in, because you almost always use it, especially on refurb projects. Lesson 4 is evaluate. So this is something I wish I did a bit earlier, but I think it's really effective. Again, you probably all do it, but I came to the party late. So review your projections against reality. So once you've actually finished some developments, go back and look at your acquisition appraisal and see what you got right and what you got wrong. You might be able to find a pattern, you might be able to adjust it accordingly and become much better in the future. Remove price inflation. In the early days, I thought I was the best developer in the world, but it turns out I could have just sat on the developments and made about the same amount of money. Make adjustments to your appraisal process. So keep evolving and keep improving. Lesson 5, which kind of contradicts all of what I've just said, is be brave and take risks. Because if you're too prudent, you'll never buy anything. You might as well not be here. So you've got to look at the facts. You've got to be as objective as possible, but then you've got to make a judgment call as an entrepreneur. So for us, maybe we think that we're a good developer. We think we produce a really good product, and we think we can get a price premium, maybe even in this market. So we might say, actually, we've done all the analysis, but actually we're going to put another 2.5% or 5% on the GDV because we want to be competitive and we want to get the deal. And we back ourselves to get those prices. So after all that, Uplift now looks a lot different. We still have some intellectual naivety, me, but we mix it with lots of experience. We're still a challenger brand. We still really care about our product, but our primary focuses are on process and profit. We now only have 10 employees, and we outsource things to people like Michelle. We're looking to do bigger developments, so apply an 80-20 principle. We can get more capital deployed, and it's by and large the same management time. We're still really, really ambitious, but we're going to do it in a controlled way. And we'll hopefully have some exciting news soon, but not ready to share it yet, unfortunately. So I'm going to leave you with this. Don't be afraid to fail. Be afraid not to try. Thank you very much.